Tonight, dim the lights and let me take you back more than 2,000 years, to a time when the edge of the known world trembled at the footsteps of tribes, when Europe's forests were dark, and when war marked the dawn before many ever saw the sunrise. Imagine yourself rising before dawn's pale light, snow-crusted ground underfoot, your breath pluming in the air. You are Anya, the daughter of a chieftain, though you do not yet know that chieftain is your destiny. You stir in your hide bed, ears ringing from the distant cries of wolves, the scent of wood smoke. You know hunger, you know loss, but you also know a fierce pulse in your chest that tells you you will never bow. Today is the first time you will walk among elders in council, to learn warcraft, to be judged. Your hands, though young, have already carried the dead from battle, have already tended wounds. The council elders, weathered and stern, look upon you with questioning eyes, because in these lands, a woman leading men is almost unheard of. Yet when you stand, cloak heavy, boots soaked from frost, when your voice doesn't falter, you surprise them. That crack in tradition opens a sliver of possibility, and though you do not yet see the war chief in the mirror, in that moment your heart shifts. You feel possibility. You feel the weight of expectation. The wind whispers that your life will be carved by blade and fire, but also by loyalty, by strange alliances, by betrayal. And so you step from the longhouse door into a world you are not yet ready for, and thus begins the road to becoming Europe's first female war chief.
You awake later, this time to the rushing of water from freezing river breaks. The morning mist lies like a phantom over the old forest. Hunger gnaws at you, and you know you must gather food. Berries under snow, nuts cracked open, and perhaps trap a hare. Your bones ache from yesterday's training with bow and spear. Still, you rise, slip outside in the dim cold, and walk toward the river's edge. You know the ice is thin here. Your breath fogs as you break it, with heart pounding. You drink, ice-cold water biting your lips. A hare's footprint leads you into thicket. You pull your bow back. Release. Arrow misses. You curse softly under breath. By midday, you have berries, a small rabbit. You share with younger siblings. They smile. But midday brings wind from the north, sharp and bitter. Your cloak no shield. Frost bites ears. You return to hearth to mend torn leather and sharpen arrowheads. You learn that a neighbouring tribe scouts have been seen near the forest's edge. Rumour of skirmish. The elders whisper. Sometimes enemies cross boundary rivers. You feel tension, anticipation. That night you lie awake, listening for distant drums. Of war or of panic. You dream of a horn-blown charge, of shield against axe. Your limbs soar, but the ember of resolve burns. You awake to the crack of wood splitting, the arrival of traders from afar, their wagons creaking, spare smells of leather, strange spices, unfamiliar metals. Their arrival is both marvel and danger. As Anya, you step forward with curiosity. They bring bronze mirrors, coloured cloths, iron tools, things your tribe has seldom seen. You examine a mirror, see your face, frost-rimmed, hair tangled, eyes hard. The traders' tools glint in weak sun. In exchange they want furs and hides. They promise stories. But you note the price they name is steep. Your father argues. You learn of lands across sea, of storms that make travellers weep. Evening comes with laughter around feasting fires, roasted meat, tales in tongues you half understand.
You taste unfamiliar spices. The warmth of the fire scorches cold from your bones. As drummers beat, you dance unsteadily, every stomp echoing your blood's longing. But when night falls, you lie awake, half dreaming of distant wars, of strangers' weapons, of what power might lie in owning iron rather than bronze. The trader's goods are beautiful, but you sense they carry risk, envy, dependency, betrayal. You see in firelight your reflection, and you wonder, if war comes, will my people hold iron born of our strength? Or will we be tempted into chains of trade and debt? This question settles in your mind like a stone.
You wake early to the sharp cry of ravens overhead, their wings beating in the freezing air. As Anya, you pull your cloak tight, feeling the stiff frost on your skin. Today, you are to test your strength in combat training, for the first time among warriors. The training yard lies beside the river, under tall pines glazed with ice. You grip the wooden practice shaft, its surface rough, frozen cold. Across you stands Bryn, a veteran warrior, older, scarred. She instructs you in shield work and footwork. Your boots slip on ice, your breath comes in ragged bursts. When her wooden shield swings, you parry, but poorly. The clang echoes. The cold stings your arms. You taste metal on your tongue. You know you must not show fear. Sweat mixes with frost on your brow. Bryn nods. She corrects your stance. You stumble, fall. Cold snow presses against your skin. You rise, shaking. Then you land a hit, firm, on her forearm. She winces. A moment of triumph floods you. But then, news comes. An outpost of your tribe, near the forest border, under attack by raiders. While your body aches from training, your heart hammers at urgency. You leave combat yard, head to Longhouse gates, seeing smoke rising in distance. A messenger says people are dying, children hidden, cows stolen. You steel yourself. Tonight you will ride, or march, into cold, into danger. The future demands you learn not only to swing wood or steel, but to carry the burden of responsibility. You arrive at the edge of your village as the sun begins to rise, orange light bleeding through tall trees. The messenger has led you to scenes of chaos, broken fences, blood-stained snow, cattle gone, and terrified children hiding behind mothers. You see your father's longhouse, one of its doorframes splintered. Raider tracks lead into forest. The cold no longer just discomfort, it feels like threat. As Anya, you gather a small band of warriors, mostly your age, some older, drawn by grief, by duty. You check arms. Sharpened blades, worn shields, leather armor stiff with cold. You feel weight of responsibility press on your shoulders. As the band sets out, you walk among wounded, offering water warmed over small fires, pressing hands to broken limbs, murmuring promises. Your brother appears. His hands tremble. You hold his gaze. There's no time for tears, but grief hums beneath. Into the forest you go, footsteps crunching, breath visible. Wolves howl in distance. Each shadow seems danger. Bent branch, snapping twig. At midday you find a raider camp among pines, tents ragged, slaughtered cattle carcasses. You crouch, listening. Warriors lift bow, arrow nocked. You breathe steady. You release. Arrow whistles. Raider falls. Panic in their camp.
smoke from burning hides, the smell sharp. You fight beside your comrades, cold mud underfoot. Shields clash, steel and bone ring. When the skirmish is done, you stand over fallen enemy and friend. You touch your heart, whispering whisper oath. You will protect. You will lead. You return home under leaden sky, burdened by grief and victory. Snow falls lightly, each flake a sharp reminder of what cost has been paid. Anya's men bring back stolen cattle, broken shields, some missing. Parents weep, children stare. Silence presses. You move among the longhouses, helping gather straw, rebracing broken doors, carrying water in wooden buckets where pipes frozen cracked. That night, a feast is held. Not triumph, but remembrance. You sit by hearth, cup of broth warming hands that can barely feel fingers. Tales told of the fallen. Songs sung. Voices raw. You check wounds in your own side, a shallow cut under ribs, but you bear it quietly. Outside, wolves circle the outer woods. In dreams you see their eyes glowing. You wonder if raiders will return, or worse, winter famine. Under moonlight, you walk along the frozen riverbank, tasting the cold air, muscles stiff. You consider what it means to lead, not just to strike with sword, but to guard hearth and child. Your brother sleeps with nightmares. You place a hand on his shoulder. You speak nothing of fear. At dawn, frost-jeweled, you rise again, knowing the coming days will be more about survival than glory. You sharpen blades, check traps, share rations. You scan the forest edge for signs of wolves or incoming raiders. The life of a war chief is not constant battle, but constant watching, guarding, protecting. You awake to the crackle of wind through the rafters. The winter has hardened the earth into stone, the sky low and leaden. As Onya, you know warmth will be scarce. You begin your day by patrolling the perimeter of the village, staff in hand, watching for wolf tracks. Frost gives way to footprints, large, clawed, pressing close to the edge of your forest border. You shiver, cloak wrapped tight, and return to gather your few hunters. You send them out in pairs to set traps, snares beneath snowdrifts, pits hidden under frozen leaves. Meanwhile, you check on the livestock. Sheep dull with cold, goats lowing plaintively. One ewe has limp in her leg. You bind it with linen strips, press warmed bran near it to ease pain. Midday brings the traders' voices again, now fewer, cautious. Rumor, a distant clan has begun raids to seize supplies before the worst of winter hits. You listen by the hearth, burnt broth on the wood fire, whispering, half-spoken whispers of fear. As dusk falls, you lead your hunters back, traps empty or spoiled by frost. Hunger gnaws, children cry. You gather wood, build a fire so the smoke spirals upward, a small defiance against dark sky. That night you stand at your longhouse threshold, staff in hand, cloak heavy with frost, looking into the forest, wondering whether the next footsteps you hear will be wolves or armored men coming to take what little you have. You awaken to cries in the longhouse. One of the children has fallen ill overnight. Fever burning, coughing hushed, eyes glassy. As Anya, you know illness in this winter could kill. Pneumonia, frostbite, infection. You wrap your cloak tighter,
Fetch water from frozen troughs. Boil it in the hearth cauldron. The routine is relentless. You mix herbs, dried thyme, a root you gathered in late autumn, and steep them. You press warm compresses to the child's chest. You whisper comfort. Outside, the world rages. Frost biting, wind shrieks through the pines. Wolves howl distance. You check the other animals. One goat limps, another bleats for feed. You ration hay carefully. You mend torn hides to protect stock from cold wind. Spain bridges of moonlight through frosted branches. At midday, word arrives. Some hunters not returned. Anxiety coils. Night comes, and you sit by the sick child, warmed only faintly by flickering fire. You hold her small hand, feel her cold wrist. You recount stories parents told, of heroic women, of battle, of endurance. Your voice is soft. Outside the longhouse door, you listen for steps, for predators. Sleep evades you. Yet when dawn finally breaks again, you steady your spirit. Today you must gather more wood, find medicinal roots, be caregiver and protector all in one. You rise before first light, the sky a slate sheet. Winter deepens. Ice thickness is unpredictable. In the past nights, some traps have yielded nothing. Some animals snared have died before you could reach them. Hunger bites sharper than frost. As Anya, you lead two of the hunters into deep forest in search of game. You move silently, staff in hand, eyes on broken branches, fresh droppings, smell of fur in wind. You find tracks, deer, maybe elk. Excitement, hope. You split paths. One hunter flushes deer, you knock arrow, release. It finds its mark. The deer stag disturbs snow, staggers. You finish it with a swift blow. Heart pounding, you dress the animal, carry it home in pieces. Frost numbs fingers, blood mixes with cold air. Back in village, children catch sight and cheer softly. Meat becomes feast, modest but sacred. Mothers cook over low fires. The smell of roasting flesh warms longhouses. You share with brother, with elders. Yet even as warmth spreads, you know worries exist. Fat reserves thin, winter storms looming. During evening, wind tears at loose thatch. You mend roofs, reinforce doors. Wolves nearer this night. You stand watch while others sleep, staff in hand, cloak pulled, eyes searching. When dawn comes, you feel marrow tired, but satisfaction fills you. You fed your people tonight. And in feed lies purpose. In caring lies leadership. You awake to distant drums echoing over stone floors and courtyards. The palace craftsmen are whispering, steel-bladed sword, fortified tower. As Anya, you walk among frescoed walls, tangles of coloured plaster showing bulls, geometric lines, processions. The craftsmen show you a newly made dagger of bronze inlaid with silver, sharp-pointed and dangerous. They say it came from mainland trader forges, a new style. The elders debate, is this for hunting or for war? You hold the dagger, see the reflection of light shimmering. The blade promises power, but also risk. Outside, guards post themselves at watchtowers you never noticed before. Rumour of rival palaces, jealous of your people's farmland, fertile soil, ports teeming with trade. At the feast that evening, you see unusual banners and shields carried in by strangers. They move through halls in processions, glinting. Conversations hush when they pass. You understand. Peace is fragile. Warriors dwell not only in open war,
but in readiness, in prestige. That night, you stand at the wall overlooking the sea breeze salty, dagger at your side, watching horizon where ships come and go. The moonlight glints on bronze-leafed mirrors and weapons stored like art in the palace, beautiful, yet deadly. You wonder whether that dagger, or the tower, or the soldier with the strange shield, will be what decides the next battle.
You wake before dawn in palace quarters, restless. Word has reached you. An outpost near the northern cape has been raided, livestock stolen, children frightened. As Anya, you dress quickly, leather armor lined with boiled goatskin, belt heavy with tools, dagger at hip. You gather a small patrol, hunters, artisans, guards. You move through olive groves, the sea mist cold on skin, to the outpost. Leaves crunch, stones cold underfoot. The raiders, unknown clan, seem to travel light but strike hard. You arrive to destruction, huts burned, chickens gone, a child's toy scorched. Your heart tightens. You order water to be carried, wounded tended, women sheltered. With your patrol, you track raider footprints along a rocky shore, wet sand, broken pottery shards. At midday you clash, bows twang, bronze shields ring. You hold the line. One raider falls, you barely avoid arrow. Wind carries salt and smoke. When the fight ends, the cost is high, more lost than gained. You lead survivors back to palace, carrying wounded, comforting mothers. That night, in your tent, you tend to your own arms, cleaning bronze, inspecting dents. You to moonlight, about justice and mercy, about what it means to lead, not just with blade, but with heart. You wake to tremors. The earth beneath your palace shudders, tiles crack, beams creak. Whispered words, earthquake, collapse. As Anya, you spring into action, no time for fear. You run into courtyard, cloak flying. You help carry heavy beams from collapsed roof. You calm panicked servants, children. The tremors subside, but damage remains. Storerooms cracked, jars smashed, grain spilled into dust. Food stores risk spoilage from dampness. Winter still heavy, and now your people face another threat, nature itself. You organize repair teams, carpenters, stonemasons, women who weave tar or plaster. You fetch water from broken cisterns, you haul buckets. As night falls, the aftershocks continue, small quakes, rumbling. You lie awake under open sky, stars sharp and cold. You reflect. War you can see, you can fight. Disaster you can mend, perhaps. But how many disasters stacked do you and your people endure before your spirit weathers thin? Still, in that darkness, you whisper stories of ancestors, of survival, of the courage in simple repair, in gathering what remains. You place your hands on broken jars, on fallen beams, and promise. Determined we endure. The morning feels heavy, though the sky shows no storm. As Anya, you walk through the palace courtyard, when a sudden roar shakes the horizon. You turn toward the sea. There the mountain of Thera bellows fire and smoke. A column of ash bursts upward like a black tree piercing the clouds. You grip the wall, stunned. Birds scatter in frantic flocks. The air thickens with sulfur. People scream, pointing. Some fall to their knees, calling on gods. You call instead for calm. Your voice is firm, though your chest pounds. Fetch water, gather supplies, move children to safety. You climb to a high terrace, cloak whipping in sudden hot winds. and watch in disbelief as the sea churns strangely, pulling back, receding as if the gods themselves were breathing in. Your stomach twists. You understand, instinctively. A wave is coming. You shout until your throat burns, ordering the villagers toward higher ground, toward rocky ridges. Some obey, some freeze in terror. The mountain continues to thunder, orange fireball visible in the distance. Ash falls like black snow. You taste bitterness on your tongue. You do not know how to stop the sea, but you know you must move your people before it returns to swallow everything. You run with your people, feet pounding rocky paths, lungs burning. The sound comes next. Not just roar of volcano, but a thunderous crash, growing louder. As Anya, you glance back. A wall of water rising, black-green, towering higher than any forest. It comes, claw-shaped, shimmering with lightning. You cry out for all to keep moving. Mothers stumble with infants. Men drag elders by arms. You seize a child who is frozen, lift her, sprint uphill. The wave slams behind. Houses splinter like twigs. Pottery, animals, people vanish in spray. The air is filled with screams and thunder. You reach a ridge, soaked by spray, gripping staff like anchor. The ground shakes under the impact. You force yourself to count survivors, eyes scanning frantically. Tears sting your cheeks, not from weakness but salt water and grief. Yet you keep shouting, driving people higher, toward caves in cliffside. You know shelter here, places used by hunters. Inside, people collapse, coughing, clinging. You stand outside a moment longer, watching as your home is drowned, your longhouses swept away, your life erased in one sweep. The sight burns into your mind, but you whisper, "We endure." Then you duck inside cave, cloak heavy with seawater, heart still hammering. The cave is dark, damp, filled with sobs and whispered prayers. As Anya, you move among the survivors, checking injuries. Some are cut by debris, some shaken beyond speech. You rip strips of cloak for bandages, press cloth to wounds, steady trembling hands. Outside, the storm still rages, thunder mingled with volcanic roars. Through cracks in rock, you see flashes of lightning, orange glow from Thera. You breathe shallow. The air tastes of smoke and salt. Children cling to you, pressing small faces into your cloak. You tell them stories, softly, of wolves outsmarted by clever maidens, of forests that regrow after fire. Your voice calms, even as your heart beats uneven. At dawn, silence finally comes. You step outside into a world unrecognizable. The village is gone, washed flat. No roofs, no walls, only wreckage. Bodies tangled with wood and rope. The sea foams, littered with fragments of once lives. Ash still falls, blackening snow. You stand barefoot in mud, eyes stinging. You whisper to the sea, not curse, not plea, just acknowledgement. You have taken. But we still breathe. Behind you, survivors gather, eyes hollow. You know they will look to you now, not only as warrior, but as leader of the remnants. The weight settles on you heavy, like stone upon your shoulders. You straighten anyway. You walk forward, scanning for salvage. In survival lies the first step of rebuilding. The sun rises weakly, filtered through ash. The world smells of salt, smoke, and decay. As Anya, you gather the survivors on the high ridge. Some want to search for loved ones. Others collapse, paralyzed by grief. You stand firm, voice steady, resolute. We search, but we survive. You divide tasks, some to sift wreckage for food, others to collect wood for fire, a few to dig shallow graves where the sea has left bodies. You take spade yourself, hands blistering on its rough handle, mud sucking at your boots. The first burial is a child, eyes closed, hair tangled in seaweed. Your throat tightens, but you keep speaking, a low chant of respect. The people echo you, their voices ragged but unbroken. By midday, you salvage jars of olives, damp but edible, and some grain, though spoiled by salt. You assign rations, just enough for each. When someone protests the portion too small, you look them directly in the eyes. Enough to last until we find more. No one dares challenge. At dusk, fire burns high. Survivors huddle for warmth, coughing from ash in the air. You sit apart, staff across knees, watching the sea. You wonder if it will rise again. You whisper promises to the dead that the living will endure. The wind carries your vow into the dark. The next day, hunger drives you farther inland. As Anya, you lead a small group into the forest. Frost cracks beneath boots. The trees whisper with crows. You set traps for hares, check hollows for nuts stored by squirrels. The forest feels strange. Ash has coated branches. Snow is blackened. Still, you move silently, staff probing ground. Midday, you spot deer tracks. Heart leaps. You gesture to your brother to flank. The deer bolts, arrow loosed, misses. You grit teeth, but persistence pays. Later, a rabbit caught in snare, thin but food nonetheless. You return to ridge at dusk with meager haul. Villagers gather eagerly, firelight reflecting hollow faces. You divide meat into small pieces, add to thin stew of olives and spoiled grain. It tastes bitter, but fills bellies. That night, as people sleep, you walk alone to forest edge. You crouch, examining wolf tracks fresh in snow. The predators sense weakness. You know they will come closer. You grip your staff harder, whispering whisper to yourself. Let them. We are not prey. Yet deep down, you wonder if you can protect all, when even nature itself has turned against you. Dawn brings silence, broken only by coughs and crows. You rise, shoulders aching, body worn thin. As Anya, you know that survival requires not only food but structure. You gather survivors around fire, voice low but firm. We will rebuild. We will not scatter. You assign tasks, some to weave shelters from branches and hides, others to fetch fresh water from higher springs, away from sea's taint. You yourself join builders, binding wood with cords of twisted fiber, hands bleeding but steady. Children collect stones, eager to help. Slowly, crude huts take shape, nothing like lost longhouses, but enough to shield from wind. Midday, a scout rushes in breathless, strangers near, watching from forest. You tighten cloak, grip staff. You climb ridge, scan tree line. Indeed, figures flicker between trunks, cloaked, armed. Perhaps raiders drawn by disaster, smelling weakness. You stand tall, staff raised, cloak flapping. You shout warning across distance, voice echoing. This land is not yours! The figures melt back into shadows. Unease spreads, but pride flickers too. Your people see you defy, unbowed. That night, you sit near the new shelters,
listening to forests sigh. Survivors curl together under rough roofs. You whisper into flames. We are fewer, but we stand. Sparks rise like tiny stars, defiant against dark. The night is restless. You wake to the bleating of goats, frantic, panicked. As Anya, you leap from your crude shelter, cloak half fastened, staff in hand. The fire is low, shadows shifting. Then you hear it. Deep growls at the edge of the clearing. Wolves. Hunger has driven them close, eyes glowing like coals in the dark. You shout, hurl a burning branch into the tree line. The light flares, the wolves hesitate but do not retreat. Villagers clutch each other, children scream. You order men to form a circle around the livestock pens. You jab your staff against the ground, voice steady, though heart hammers. The wolves slink closer, teeth bared. Then, with a sudden rush, they lunge. Chaos erupts, shields clang, shouts echo, animals scatter. You swing staff, crack against snarling jaw. Pain shoots through arms. One goat is dragged screaming into shadows, but you push forward, striking again, driving another beast back. At last, with firebrands and defiance, the pack withdraws, fading into forest. Silence returns, broken by sobs. You kneel, touch the ground, whispering. Whisper thanks to fire for holding. The villagers look at you differently now, less as survivor, more as protector. You see it in their eyes, the beginning of trust that binds not by blood, but by choice. Morning brings exhaustion, but no peace. Scouts return with grim news. Raiders are near, drawn by the same disaster that crippled you. As Anya, you gather your weary band. Some urge fleeing deeper into forest, others argue for standing ground. You speak quietly, but firmly. If we run forever, we will die forever. Here we stand. You order defenses built, sharpened stakes at perimeter, traps dug along paths, stones piled for hurling. You oversee every detail, sleeves rolled, hands raw, blood crusting where rope burned skin. Children carry water, women weave tighter rope snares. You sense the fear, but you also sense resolve slowly forming. By dusk, the first scouts appear again. Strangers with painted shields, circling, watching. You stand at the center, cloak clasped, staff planted. You call out across distance, shouting, daring them to come. They hesitate, perhaps surprised to see survivors so defiant. Darkness falls. They vanish into trees. Uneasy silence hangs, but in it your people see strength. That night fires ring the camp, torches like stars against ash sky. You walk the perimeter, touching each guard's shoulder, whispering words of steadiness. Inside, in your own heart, you tremble, because you know the raiders will test your words soon enough. The attack comes at dawn. Horns blare from forest. Raiders rush from trees with axes and spears, voices roar. As Anya, you are already awake, staff in hand, heart steady. You shout orders. Shields! Stones ready. The traps spring. Pits collapse beneath raiders. Sharpened stakes wound. Villagers hurl stones, shrieking in fear and fury. You wade into melee, staff cracking skull, dagger flashing at belt. Blood sprays your cloak. One raider swings axe. You block with staff, wood splintering, pain shooting up arm. You grit teeth, push forward, slash. The man falls. Around you, chaos, firelight, screens, clashing bronze. At last, as sun rises, the raiders retreat, dragging wounded. Victory, but costly. Several villagers lie still, eyes open to pale sky. You kneel beside them, breathing raggedly, breath ragged, staff broken at end. You press your forehead to ground, whispering, whisper farewell. Your people look to you, not with fear now, but reverence. You have stood against wolves and men alike. You have led. You have become what the gods themselves seemed to demand. War chief. Yet inside you, grief aches heavier than triumph. You know each victory demands blood. You whisper quietly to the dead, "Forgive the living for needing you gone." After the battle, silence weighs heavier than victory. As Anya, you gather survivors in the clearing. Faces streaked with soot and blood turn toward you, expectant. You raise your broken staff, splintered but still upright, and speak. We stood, we bled, we remain. The words steady them like anchors. You order fires for the dead, each pyre carefully built. Smoke rises, carrying names whispered aloud. You light the first with your own hands, cloak brushing sparks, eyes stinging with both grief and ash. Children watch solemnly. That night you call a council, elders, hunters, healers. Around a single fire, you speak of future. No longer can your people be scattered or fragile. You propose binding tribes together, an oath of defense, a pact of survival. Some object, voices wary. A woman leading warriors breaks tradition. You listen. Let their words settle, then stand, eyes steady. Would you rather the dead rise to lead, or the living who stood with you? Silence answers more than argument. By dawn the pact is sworn, not with parchment or seal, but with hands clasped over flame, calluses pressing into calluses. You feel the weight shift again. You are no longer simply survivor, but chosen leader. The title is unspoken but felt, War Chief. The following days are consumed by rebuilding. As Anya, you direct efforts with precision, some gathering stone, others weaving reeds, others shaping wood into beams. You stand among them, hammering pegs yourself, sweat streaking through soot. The shelters rise stronger than before, low and compact, walls angled to resist storm. Children haul stones in baskets, under breath. At midday, you lead hunting parties deeper into the forest. The snares yield rabbits, the bows bring down a small deer. Each return is celebrated, not with feasting, but with quiet gratitude. Yet not all is work. You sense whispers among young warriors. Some question whether disasters and attacks are signs of God's disfavor. One confronts you, voice sharp. Are we cursed to follow a woman into ruin? The fire crackles. You step close, eyes piercing. You say nothing at first, only press your dagger into the earth between you. The silence stretches. Finally, you speak. If ruin follows me, then strike me now, and lead them yourself. He lowers his eyes. No one else speaks. The authority is sealed, not in shouting, but in silence that follows your challenge. That night, as villagers rest in new shelters, you walk alone by riverbank, dagger in belt, staff in hand. The stars return at last, faint behind ash. You breathe deeply, feeling for the first time not only weight, but strange calm of command. A week later, the forest delivers its next test. Not wolves, not raiders, but famine's creeping hand. Traps come up empty, rivers yield only bones, children's cheeks hollow, mothers' arms thin. As Anya, you decide boldness is the only answer. You lead an expedition south, across ridges where ash still coats branches, toward a fertile valley whispered of by scouts. The journey is brutal. Wind whips, snow crunches, boots tear. By midday, you find it. A pocket of land untouched, green shoots peeking beneath ash. Deer, grazing. Relief floods your chest. You order immediate hunts, snares set, wood gathered. Fires crackle by nightfall, venison roasting. The smell brings laughter, weak but real. You watch children gnaw meat, eyes wide with joy. Yet the valley is not empty. At dawn, you find signs, footprints, charred remains of other camps. Another tribe has claimed here before. The evidence unsettles your warriors, but you kneel, palm pressed to soil, and whispers, "We claim it now, or we starve." You rise, declare the valley yours. That night, you post sentries, sharpen weapons, and sleep lightly. You know tomorrow may bring confrontation, but tonight, bellies are full. Tonight, for the first time since sea and fire, your people sleep without hunger gnawing. At dawn, the valley quiet breaks. Horns echo from treeline. The tribe who claimed this place before has returned. As Anya, you assemble your warriors quickly. Shields raised, spears braced. They emerge, tall figures cloaked in fur, faces streaked with soot. Their leader steps forward, axe heavy, voice booming. "This valley is ours." You answer calmly, though your heart pounds. It feeds us now. We do not yield. The standoff crackles with tension. Your people glance at you, waiting. The rival chief slams his axe into ground, demanding submission. You lift your staff, point toward the children behind you. Would you see them starve? Silence. Then laughter, harsh, dismissive. The clash begins. Spears thrust, shields slam, snow churns red. You fight at front, staff cracking, dagger slashing. Your voice carries, "Hold!" Push. Slowly, inch by inch, your people do not break. At last, with losses on both sides, the rival chief calls retreat, dragging wounded. You collapse to knees, exhausted, but alive. You know this victory is fragile. The valley is yours, but blood now marks it. The day after battle, the valley feels haunted. Smoke from funeral fires hangs low. As Anya, you walk among the wounded, binding cuts, whispering encouragement. You kneel by one young warrior, chest pierced, and hold his hand until his breath stops. You do not cry, though your throat burns. Instead, you gather the living, voice calm but unyielding. We bleed, but we do not break. You order barricades built, trenches dug, patrols constant. Children fetch stones, women weave bandages. At night you climb ridge, overlooking valley torches. You think of the rival tribe. Will they return with greater force? The stars above seem cold, watching. You clutch dagger at belt, feeling both its comfort and its curse. Sleep is brief, dreams filled with crashing waves and screaming faces. Yet each dawn you rise, cloak heavy with frost, resolve unshaken. You realize, leadership is not grand speeches or perfect victories. It is the quiet endurance of standing each morning, though grief gnaws and fear whispers. 3 days later, scouts return, breathless. The rival tribe gathers again, greater numbers this time. As Anya, you call counsel by fire. Some urge retreat, others despair. You listen, then stand, cloak clasp glowing faintly in flame. If we run, famine finds us. If we stand, we may yet live. Your words settle like stones. Preparations intensify, snares sharpened, pits concealed,
stones piled high. You order drills, shields locked, spears thrust in rhythm. The people grumble, weary, but obey. On the morning of attack, fog blankets valley. The enemy advances, war horns muffled, shadows looming. You crouch behind barricade, staff gripped, heart thudding. At your signal, villagers unleash stones. Traps spring, pits collapse. Screams echo, chaos erupts. You leap from barricade, leading charge, voice carrying above din. For hours, clash rages, blood slicks ground, fog stained red. At last, the rival tribe falters, retreats in disorder. Victory, but again costly. You stand atop barricade, cloak torn, staff raised, voice hoarse. This valley is ours. Cheers rise, weak but real. You feel both triumph and hollowness. After the second victory, an uneasy peace settles. As Anya, you patrol valley daily, eyes scanning treeline. You order watchtowers of logs built, fires always lit. Children sing while carrying stones, their voices fragile but hopeful. At night, you sit by fire with elders, planning alliances. Messengers are sent to neighboring tribes, offering trade of venison, hides, and crafted tools in exchange for peace. Some return with cautious words, others with silence. Still, the attempt matters. Within days, hunters bring news of strange ships sighted at coast. Foreign sails, unknown banners, whispers spread. Merchants or invaders. You weigh choices carefully. The valley is secure for now, but the world beyond still hungers. That night, lying awake, you stroke iron knife at belt, thinking of how a single object can shift power, how survival may soon depend not only on defending, but on reaching beyond. The ships approach at dawn. Sleek, carved prows, sails dyed crimson. As Anya, you gather warriors at ridge, watching strangers disembark. They are not raiders, but traders, bronze tools, coloured cloth, jars of wine. Their leader steps forward, smiling too broadly. He offers gifts, but his eyes linger on your valley with hunger. You welcome cautiously, cloak drawn close. You accept some goods, salt, bronze blades, in exchange for hides and venison. But when he asks for tribute, your voice hardens. We trade as equals, not as servants. Tension thickens. He laughs, masks his anger, departs with promises to return. Your people murmur, divided, some dazzled by goods, others fearful of demands. You gather them at fire, speak plainly, gifts can bind as chains. We will not bow. The words settle them. Still, you lie awake uneasy, wondering if you have refused more than you can resist. The days after the trader's visit are restless. As Anya, you sense eyes on valley, as if others measure its worth. You order drills again, shields raised, spears thrust in rhythm, children learning to shout loud enough to rattle courage. You train with them, sweat dripping, staff swinging, dagger flashing. At night, you dream of crimson sails turning black with fire. You wake drenched, walk ridge, listening to forest hush. The rival tribes have grown quiet, too quiet. You suspect alliances forming. You know you cannot wait. You summon your warriors, voice even. If others gather, we must strike first. Murmurs ripple, fear, doubt, but they nod. Plans are drawn for a raid, not of conquest, but of warning, to show valley will not be prey. That night you sharpen blade, cloak folded at your side, heart steady, though hands tremble slightly. You whisper to fire. We carry storm before it carries us. The night of the raid arrives. As Anya, you lead 30 warriors through forest shadows, torches extinguished, only moonlight guiding. Your breath clouds in cold air, boots crunch softly on frost. Ahead lies the rival camp, a cluster of huts, fires low, guards half asleep. You crouch, hand raised. The moment hangs, heavy. Then you whisper the signal. Warriors surge, voices rising like thunder. You charge at front, staff cracking skull, dagger flashing in other hand. Flames leap as huts are set alight. Raiders stumble from sleep, shouting, scattering. The clash is brutal but swift. Your side strikes hard, then withdraws just as fast, vanishing into forest before numbers overwhelm. Smoke trails behind. Shouts echo faint. At dawn you return to valley, your people waiting, wide-eyed. You raise staff high. We carried storm to them. They will not forget. The cheer that follows is ragged but fierce. You feel the shift. Your people no longer merely endure, they strike. Yet inside, you also feel the weight of blood newly spilled. The raid echoes like a stone thrown in still water. In days following, scouts report rival tribes gathering in anger. As Anya, you call another council. Elders argue. Some fear retaliation, others see opportunity. You listen, then speak. We struck because they would have struck first. Now we prepare. You order fortifications expanded, ditches widened, barricades doubled. Hunters train as archers, women sharpen spears, children learn signals to carry through valley. You yourself work alongside them, sweat soaking cloak, hair plastered with frost. At night, you walk perimeter, speaking with each guard, reminding them, fear shared is fear halved. But you also sense something deeper, whispers among your people that the gods themselves chose you. Some carve your likeness on wooden staves, paint blue symbols on shields. You do not encourage it, but neither do you forbid. You know belief can bind as strongly as blade. Alone, staring into fire, you whisper, if gods choose me, then let them bear some burden too. Winter deepens, harsh and merciless. Food runs thin again. As Anya, you refuse despair. You lead hunting parties into mountains, enduring biting wind. You climb rocky ridges, snow-crusting cloak, fingers numb. At last, you find wild goats clinging to cliffs. Arrows fly, hooves clatter. One falls. Relief spreads. The carcass heavy, you carry alongside men, stumbling but refusing to yield. Back in valley, the meat feeds all. Broth steaming in crude pots. Children laugh, bellies full for first time in weeks. You sit apart, weary but warmed by sound. That night, snow falls heavy, blanketing valley in silence. You patrol with torch, flame sputtering, breath fog thick. In that silence, you feel both immense loneliness and immense purpose. The valley sleeps, because you do not. The weight is crushing yet strangely steadying. You whisper into snow dark. We endure because I must endure. Spring's thaw finally comes, rivers swelling, earth softening. As Anya, you sense chance to expand strength. You send messengers again, this time not just to trade, but to propose alliance, a confederation of tribes bound for defense. Some respond with suspicion, others with curiosity. One tribe agrees to meet. You prepare carefully, cloak mended, hair braided, dagger polished. At the gathering, held in neutral clearing, you face their chief, older, scarred, eyes wary. He scoffs at first. Huh, a woman, war chief. You step closer, voice calm. A woman who stood when storms fell, who led when men fled. Silence stretches, then murmurs ripple. You present gifts, hides, bronze blade, jars of olives. Slowly, tension eases. By dusk, an oath is sworn. Mutual defense, shared watch of borders. You feel triumph, but also caution. Alliances are fragile, bound by need, broken by envy. That night you sit by fire, stars bright at last, whispering, "Perhaps storm forged us, so we may forge peace." Weeks later, word arrives. The rival tribe you defeated twice has joined with others, forming coalition. They march toward valley. As Anya, you stand on ridge, watching dust rising in distance. Numbers far exceed yours. Fear ripples through people. You speak clearly. They come not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to fear. You order horns blown, allies summoned. Days later, your new confederation arrives. Warriors painted, shields gleaming. The valley fills with sound, sharpening, chanting, preparation. You walk among lines, touching shoulders, offering steady words. You fight for fire, for children, for tomorrow. On the eve of battle, you stand before all, staff planted, cloak streaming in wind. Silence falls. You raise dagger to sky. Let storm remember us. The cheer that follows rattles valley. That night you lie awake, listening to drums and whispers, knowing tomorrow will decide whether your people endure or vanish into ash. The morning of battle dawns under iron skies. As Anya, you march to ridge where your valley narrows, the only ground where numbers matter less. Your warriors form ranks, shields rough but ready. Across the plain, enemy coalition gathers, rows upon rows, banners flapping, horns blaring. Your stomach knots, but you do not show it. You step forward, raise staff high. "We hold here!" No step back. The air thrums with tension. Then horns answer, and the clash begins. Arrows darken sky, shields rattle, screams tear air. You charge into chaos, staff breaking skull, dagger striking between shields. The sound is deafening, wood splintering, bronze ringing, blood spraying hot. You slip on mud, rise again, voice hoarse but commanding. "Push!" Hold the ridge. Your people rally, hours blur. The enemy presses, then falters, pressed against barricades and traps you prepared. At dusk, their line shatters. They retreat, dragging wounded. The ridge is yours. Bodies carpet earth, blood running with rain. You stand, cloak torn, face smeared, staff raised. You whisper, barely audible. "We endured." The ridge is quiet now, broken only by crows. As Anya, you walk among fallen, checking for breath. Some gasp faintly. You order them carried, enemy and ally alike. No one dies untended. Villagers stare, unsure, but obey. Fires are lit for pyres, the smoke thick with grief. You kneel at side of your brother, wounded but alive, pressing hand to his chest. "Stay. Do not leave me yet." He smiles weakly. That night, the valley becomes a field of firelight, songs of mourning rising. You sit apart, staff across knees, dagger sheathed. You look at stars, remembering days when you feared wolves and famine. Now you command tribes. Yet each victory feels heavier than the last. How much blood must the earth drink before peace grows? The fire crackles, no answer. In weeks that follow, word spreads of your stand at the ridge. Messengers from distant tribes arrive, bearing gifts, carved horns, bronze spearheads, woven cloaks. Some seek alliance, others simply to look upon the woman who stood against storm and sword. As Anya, you accept with measured grace. You host councils, smoke curling from fires, banners fluttering in spring wind. You speak not of conquest, but of strength in unity. Rivals listen, skeptical, but swayed by scars on your staff, the weight in your voice. Slowly, a coalition forms, not of fear, but respect. Children mimic your stance in play, holding sticks as staffs. Elders whisper of omen, gods shaping fate. At night, you stand on ridge, looking down at valley now ringed with watchfires, filled with laughter and work. For the first time, you allow yourself a faint smile. Yet inside you, a quiet warning lingers. Storms always return.
Peace is fragile, always. As Anya, you wake to cries at dawn. Scouts report a splinter tribe raiding herds at edge of Alliance land. You march quickly with warriors, finding fields trampled, sheep driven off. Anger burns. You order pursuit. Through forest paths you run, feet pounding earth. By midday you catch them, raiders small in number, startled by your sudden arrival. You do not hesitate. Staff cracks, warriors surge. The skirmish ends quickly, raiders scattered. You capture 2 alive, drag them back to camp. At council, voices rise. Some demand execution, others mercy. You stand silent, then declare, they live but they serve. Let their hands build what their blades would have broken. The decision shocks, but it steadies. The captives are spared, bound to labor. You feel eyes on you, some approving, some wary. That night you sit alone, asking yourself if mercy is strength or seed of future betrayal. Seasons turn again. Crops sprout in valley, huts grow into halls, watchtowers rise taller. As Anya, you see your people stronger, yet never safe. You train youth in shield walls, teach children songs of vigilance. You inspect granaries, count jars of grain, weigh hides for trade. Traders return, this time cautious, respectful. They offer bronze blades, clay jars, fine cloth. You barter firmly, refusing tribute. At night, feasts are held, drums beating, dancers leaping. Laughter rises, though always shadowed by memory of storm and blood. You sit at head of long fire pit, staff beside, cloak clasp shining. People chant your name, voices rough but proud. Yet when crowd sleeps, you step outside, walking ridge alone. Stars shimmer, river glistens below. You close eyes, hearing echo of waves from years past. You whisper, softer than breath, peace is borrowed. We guard it, or it leaves. You return to firelight, steady as ever. The peace does not last unbroken. As Anya, you wake to horns again, this time not enemy, but allies. Messengers arrive breathless. A distant tribe within the Confederation has been struck by raiders from beyond the mountains. You gather warriors quickly, march for days through cold passes. Snow bites cheeks, wind howls in peaks. At last you arrive, smoke still curling from blackened huts, survivors trembling. You kneel among them, press hands to their shoulders, whispering, "You are not alone." Then you turn to your warriors. We hunt. The pursuit is grueling, over icy ridges, through frozen rivers, until finally you corner raiders in narrow gorge. The clash is sharp and short. Your staff strikes true, your dagger quicker still. When the fight ends, the survivors of that tribe watch you with wide eyes, whispering your name as if it were already myth. That night, you share bread with them around embers. You whisper, "Storms reach far, but so will we." Weeks later, you return to Valley with survivors in tow. Their arrival sparks both relief and unease. More mouths to feed, more hands to train. As Anya, you stand before your people, cloak clasped, voice carrying. Each hand that takes must also build. We grow stronger together. You assign tasks swiftly, fields to plow, watchtowers to man, hunts to join. Resistance flickers, but fades under your steady gaze. You train youths together, lines of shields clashing in rhythm, spears thrusting like heartbeat. Slowly, suspicion softens, laughter rising in fields once more. At night, New songs are sung, blending voices of tribes once rivals, now bound in common struggle. You sit near fire, watching children dance, eyes soft for first time in months. You whisper, "Storms forged us. Now we forge each other." One evening, scouts rush in with strange news. Travelers from the sea again, but these bear no weapons, only gifts. You meet them at shore, staff in hand, cloak clasp gleaming. They kneel, offering jars of oil, bronze ornaments, even bright dyes. Their leader bows low, saying, "We seek protection and trade." You study him long, then answer, "Protection is earned by loyalty, not bought." Yet you allow trade, watching carefully. That night, your people marvel at goods. Cloth dyed blue as sky, oil burning bright and clear. But you caution, do not let color blind you. You walk shoreline alone later, waves licking at boots, stars shimmering above. You whisper, "Sea that drowned us, may you now carry peace." The tide answers only with soft hiss. Years pass in quiet strength. As Anya, you rise each morning to walk ridge, staff steady, eyes scanning horizon. The valley thrives, fields golden, huts sturdy, children strong. You oversee harvests, settle disputes, train youths in drills. Yet your body aches more now, joints stiff, scars tugging with every move. You laugh softly at your own weariness, though never in front of others. At feasts, you sit at center, staff across knees, listening to stories of past battles told by younger voices. Sometimes they exaggerate. You smile, let them. At night, you sit by river, watching stars reflected. You whisper, "I was storm once. Now I am shore." And the quiet comforts you. The final winter comes gently. As Anya, you rise slowly now, cloak heavy, staff more cane than weapon. Yet your eyes remain sharp. You walk ridge one last time, seeing valley spread, huts smoking, fields resting, children playing. You smile, faint but real. That night, you call people together by fire. You speak softly. You endured storm, fire, wave, and war. You stand because you chose to stand. My time wanes. Yours rises. Silence, broken only by crackle. Some weep, others bow heads. You lift staff once more, voice steady. Guard peace, as fiercely as we once guarded life. You set staff down beside fire. Later, in quiet of hut, you lie on furs, listening to wind through rafters. You close eyes, whisper to night. We endured, and with that, sleep comes. Gentle, final. Outside, the fire burns low, sparks drifting into stars.